Too many new real estate investors overcomplicate cold calling. Like for today, this video, let's just forget about any script. Ignore the scripts for right now. I want to focus on the four main things or the four main topics of every cold call conversation that you should be focusing on. And also, if you're new to the channel, my name is Justin Turong, and I've helped hundreds of people make money in real estate. So a lot of people, when they're cold calling, they focus solely on the script, like follow the script, which is good. It's like a script should be a guideline on like how to deal with a conversation. So if you have one, great. But if you don't have a script, the real things you should focus on are this. Number one, price. Like, keep in mind for every cold call you have, your goal is not to try to make these people sellers. If they're sellers and they want to sell their house, they're going to sell. You're just trying to find the sellers and you're trying to disqualify the non-sellers, the people who actually don't want to sell. And you want to disqualify as soon as humanly possible because that's the only way to be efficient. So you're not trying to qualify people, you're trying to disqualify people. And if you think of it that way, it makes all the rejections a lot easier. Like, hey, like, do you want to sell your house? No, cool. Disqualified. Like, you're trying to get rid of these people as soon as possible so that you don't have to call them again and you can scratch them off your cold calling list so that you have a smaller list to call and it becomes easier. So first thing you got to be asking is price. If they are interested in selling, obviously you got to ask them, hey, do you want to sell your house or some version of that? But you got to figure out if they want to sell, what do they want to sell for? Where I see most people go wrong is that a seller says a ludicrous price or a ridiculous price for whatever the property is. Like maybe this property market value is $100,000 and they're like, hey, I want to sell this for $500,000. It's like, sorry, sir, this will not work. Do you have any other properties that you're looking to sell? Because that's not going to work. You're not going to make money on it. And the seller is just being ridiculous. There are other times where the seller might give like a market value price. And then from there, it's kind of up to your decision making to see, okay, like, can I make this deal work with seller financing, some type of creative financing, or will they just take a lower discounted deal for whatever reason? Or if they're not interested in the cash offer, maybe they're interested in a realtor. And even if you're not a realtor, you might be able to refer a realtor. And if you're an agent, you can get a referral fee. So there's different ways to monetize every single homeowner that you talk to. The key is just listening. You got to listen to what they want and kind of figure out and give them a solution to their problem. That's what sales is. So price first and foremost. It's going to be rare for you to ask them what price they want and for them to tell you a price that you're happy to hear. Most of the time, you're going to hear a price where you're like, God, it's too high. But you still can negotiate from there. And the key about getting a price out of someone, try to get their price before you give out yours. And even if they're adamant on like, no, like, I'm not telling you my price, like, what's your offer? You don't have to give your offer right away. Even if they're adamant, you're like, okay, like, if you tried hard to get the price out of them, you can literally use a price anchor from maybe other investors to make them the bad guys. For example, if someone is asking, the seller is asking, like, no, you call me, like, what's your offer? You can say something like, okay, well, other investors in this area had paid for homes similar to yours for $100,000. If you were to get a price or an offer like that, what would you say? And you did say a price technically, but it's not your price. So it's kind of like a sneaky thing that you can do to get around that. Because a lot of sellers, some of them are better at negotiations and they've always heard, get the price out of the other person first. It's like, okay, if they want that, you can give them a price, but it's not your price. So if they say, other investors are paying $100,000 for this house or house is similar to yours, what would you do if you got an offer like that? If they're like, oh, it's too low. Now you know in your head, okay, that offer's too low. So that's a way to get around that, but just try to get the price out of these people first. That's first and foremost. And if they are not willing to negotiate down and they're just like ridiculous, disqualify them, cut them off the list, don't call them again. Try to disqualify these people. Now, the next thing you got to look for is the motivation. Why do these people want to sell in the first place? If there's no true big motivation, there's a good chance that they're not actually a good person to serve. Meaning, as an investor, you're trying to get these discounted deals so you can make money. But to get these discounted deals on homes, you need a seller who's really motivated to sell. So you need someone who needs to sell. So oftentimes the people that I'm serving, as an investor are the people who are in kind of dire need for it. They're the people who are behind on their taxes and their home's going to be taken. They're the people who are behind on their mortgage and can't pay and are about to be foreclosed on, so they'd rather take your offer, even though it's cheaper. There are people maybe who like have a family member far away who's sick and they need to sell their house right away. There may be a kid who's inherited a property and just like doesn't want to be reminded of the home. Like there's a lot of different reasons why someone would want to sell fast and at a cheap price and not go with a realtor. So try to figure out their motivation, try to figure out why they want to sell. And a lot of sellers are like, hey, like, why does that matter? It's like, well, it does matter to me because I want to know if there's anything wrong with the property or if there's a specific reason why you're trying to sell. Like it matters to me. So there's different ways to deal with that, but try to find their motivation and just understand that it seems like they don't have good motivation to sell. They might not actually be a good seller. The next thing you got to look at is timeline. When do they want to sell? So do they want to sell next month? Do they want to sell now? Want to sell 3 months from now, 6 months, a year? Now, whatever they say, they're like, hey, I don't want to sell until a year. Like, instead of calling them back in a year, I would call them back in either 6 months or 3 months. Just check up with them to say, okay, like they won't sell for a while, but it's probably not a year, or it might be. At least check up with them so you still remain kind of top of mind with them. So that, because like a lot of people, a lot of sellers don't want to do business with you unless they've talked to you a lot, unless they've had different phone calls with you, they started to get to know you, because you have to build trust. You have to build what's called rapport. So figure out their timeline next. And the last thing, this is probably the least important to me, it's condition of the home. What I personally am trying to figure out is, okay, is the home burnt or is it not burnt? Is there fire damage? Is there no fire damage? I'm not asking that question, but that's what I want in my mind. And I usually ask the seller, hey, like what's the condition of the house? Or can you tell me more about the house? Something really open-ended where they can answer. Keep in mind, most sellers or homeowners are gonna lie to you. Like they're gonna be like, yeah, it's super updated, modern, nice. It's like, it's probably not. It's probably trashed. But you can always try to get the idea of like how trashed is it by like, was there fire damage or not? Like, because at the end of the day, I'm always budgeting super conservative on my deals anyways when it comes to the repairs or the rehab, that it doesn't really matter what they say unless they say it's like, I was badly fire damaged. Or there's like some massive problems that they know of, which often they don't even disclose to you anyways, but it's just good to ask. So a lot of times condition doesn't matter to me because I'm always budgeting for the worst case scenario. But if it could be helpful, especially if they're saying like, no, we actually renovated fully the kitchen and the bathrooms like 2 years ago. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Like that, it might actually be newer, maybe, if they're not lying to you. So those are the things that you should focus on with any cold call conversation. It's really not about the script. It's about those 4 topics. If you focus on those 4 topics, no matter what script you have, even if you don't have a script, you're gonna be just fine. And remember, don't try to keep everyone on the phone if you've already disqualified them. So if you found a seller or a homeowner who's actually not ready to sell, wants a ludicrous price, isn't motivated, and whatever reason, like if they're just not a good client, don't stay on the phone with them, get off, disqualify them. Because the key to cold calling is being efficient. And to be efficient, you have to spend your time talking to the right people and finding the right people as soon as humanly possible. So if you just want help overall to grow your real estate investing business, I want you to click on the link in the description below for a free strategy session. Thanks for watching. Peace.